to prioritize their health and consult a healthcare professional if needed. Significance of role and trusted extends beyond the words itself as they habits and lessons learned can having us
mun gyara
a kaka ce an gyara fa kare zo ka
duba ka gani in ya dauka ne ka gani
an cire wannan din sai ku ya ka fari
ya dawo zai dawo zai dawo
Welcome back. The program is News Day coming to you on KSMC TV, Kaduna, Nigeria. And we are discussing the holy month of Ramadan with Dr. Bashir Dahiru Usman Boti. We are discussing what Muslims are expected to perform during the 30 days of Ramadan.
Yes, when they are expected initially, I believe that some Muslims do not have the culture of eating the Holy Quran every day. Perhaps some of them might only eat during the time during prayers, when they come to pray. But in this month, one is expected to engage in the recitation and reading of the Holy Quran. At this one can divide the Holy Book into portions. You can divide it into 30 every so that throughout the month, he can complete the Holy Quran at least for the entire month. And secondly, there is nothing specific that is being specified to be observed during the first 10 days. You get it? It is only the last 10 days that has this specification of itikaf. But for the entire month, what is expected of a Muslim to engage in the recitation of the Holy Quran, as well as night prayers. And that was expected throughout the month. And of course, sadaqah, because the Prophet ﷺ, it was reported by Bukhari in his famous collection. The companions used to say, "Kana Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam ajwad al-nas, wa kana ajwad ma yakunu fi Ramadan. Indama yati Jibril, fa yudarisu al-Quran, fala Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam ajwad bil-khayri min ar-rihil mursala." This was reported from Ibn Abbas. He said, the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is the most generous person ever, and his generosity become more and more prominent and persistent during the months of Ramadan. More especially when the Gabriel used to pay him a visit for the revision of what was already then revealed. And the Gabriel used to visit him every Ramadan for a revision, so as to revise what was revealed. And during those days, the Prophet used to be so much generous. In fact, according to Ibn Abbas, he's even more generous than the air we breathe in. So, because for you to breathe, when you breathe in, you need to breathe out. But for the Prophet, we wouldn't stop from giving. There is no moment of breathing out when it comes to the way Amana, he gives out sadaqah. So that's what it is.
Now, we've been talking about what Muslims are expected to do during this month of Ramadan. Now, what are the don'ts?
The don'ts are, of course, clearly stated, because the concept of fasting stems from, literally, means abstination. One should abstain. So you should abstain from eating, drinking, or having anything to do with women when it comes to carnal issues, you understand? So, and of course, in addition to that, one has to be very careful with what one utters. Your utterances is very important, because if you fast and you deny yourself the pleasure of eating and drinking, yet you keep on backbiting people, so it means that you have lost your reward of fasting, and you have lost the validity of the fasting. Of course, in Sharia, you may be considered, your fasting may be considered valid, but then thereafter, you may find it null and void because of the fact that you have committed backbiting against a fellow Muslim. And another thing is that even when one is being provoked by anyone on whatever issue, what is expected of him is to tell him that, look, I am fasting. The Prophet said, وَإِنْ امْرُؤٌ شَاتَمَهُ فَلْيَقُلْ إِنِّي امْرُؤٌ صَائِمٌ إِنِّي امْرُؤٌ صَائِمٌ إِنِّي امْرُؤٌ صَائِمٌ. Even if somebody provoke you by insulting you, then what is expected of you is to say, I'm fasting, I'm fasting, I'm fasting.
Now, let's talk about the heritage that Muslims are supposed to consider before starting the fast, especially those with medical conditions. Like, we have this disease, like ulcer.
Well, it depends on the intensity and the gravity of the disease. So if the gravity of the disease reaches to a point where he cannot fast, he is relieved of fasting, he can feed. When the Lord said, فَمَنْ كَانَ مِنْكُمْ مَرِيضًا أَوْ عَلَى سَفَرٍ فَعِدَّةٌ مِنْ أَيَّامٍ أُخَرَ وَعَلَى الَّذِينَ يُطِيقُونَهُ فِدْيَةٌ طَعَامُ مِسْكِينٍ. Ibn Abbas, may Allah be pleased with him and his father, said that this exception is still valid for those that are well advanced in age and those that are sick. Those that are too old to fast, those that are too sick to fast, can still feed instead of fasting. That is, they can eat during the daytime of Ramadan, and after the sunset, they can only give out, they can feed and sleep. So that was expected of them. If they can fast, or perhaps they are sick now, the sickness might not be terminal. They may be sick now and they may recover after the expiration of the months of Ramadan. So when they recover from their sickness, then they are expected to fast for what they have lost. So what they have missed in the months of Ramadan. So that is that.
Now, every year we have first time that there are children that they will start fasting. That's for the first time. On this note, what is your advice to parents? How can we prepare the children?
Well, what we need to do is that we shouldn't force them at their earliest stage. We should rather encourage those who wish to, and we shouldn't allow them if they are not up to the age to pass the whole month, if they cannot do it. And another thing is that let them know, because if you force them, they might hide somewhere and eat.
Of course.
And he may grow up to feel that that is how his parents used to do. And that's how everybody used to do.
Of course.
But if you encourage him, for him to perform perhaps yesterday, then the next day you allow him to eat, then the other day you allow him to pass and so on and so forth. So let him get trained gradually, because most of the enactments, most of the legislative course of Islam came gradually. I mean, Islam adopted the principle of gradation in bringing about the legislative course that will affect our social life.
Now, how can Ramadan be used as a turning point for positive lifestyle change?
Well, that is why they said when Ramadan comes to an end, we need to retain the ethics, the values, the moral lessons that we pick from the month. That should be our take home throughout the next 11 months, after which we'll come to another round of Ramadan. So that would be expected. The Prophet used to say, Ramadan ila Ramadan, wal Jum'atu ila Jum'ah, mukaffiratun lima baynahunna majtunibatil kabair. From Ramadan to Ramadan, from one Friday to another, are expected to expiate for grave offenses, are expected to expiate for sins as long as one abstains from grave offenses, kabair. So the lessons should be retained. Ramadan is a school. So when we find ourselves in that school, we need to retain the lessons that we learned, and we need to, it is expected to be seen in our character, to see the reflection of Ramadan in our conduct, in our demeanor, and so on and so forth.
Now, how important is it for people, especially the well-to-do individuals, to support the less privileged?
That is the opportunity for them to do that, because uh, righteous deeds during the time of Ramadan, the reward are multiplied. So for them to feed and give out charity during the month of Ramadan is an opportunity. So they shouldn't miss it. In fact, I don't want to go into that, but at least if you are to go by the statistics of those going for Umrah every year from this part of the country or from Nigeria, for example, if you are to be told the amount being spent by those going on lesser pilgrimage during the month of Ramadan, you may not believe it because it is, it amounts to billions of naira every month, every year. So if some social investment projects can be undertaken with half of that amount, not necessarily all of the amount. I think for some to reduce the comfort that they may have in five-star hotels around the Holy Kaaba and similar profile of hotels around the Masjid al-Nabawi al-Sharif, for them to reduce, or at least to reduce those that they are going to take along. For example, somebody might pick the whole of his family, they may go and spend up to $100,000, for example. $100,000 or even more.
That's close to 100.
Yeah, of course. You understand? Even more than that. And they will spend all this amount of money. So you may think you can ask them to wait. You can divide them into two. I will take you along with this. Yeah, next year I will take you. Half of that money can be used in upgrading the standard of our life. And that's what the former, yes, of the less privileged. Perhaps it will help to fight the insecurity.
Of course.
Because people will be too scared to be insecure.
Yeah, of course.
They may feel, because with that project, with this program, they might feel too scared to be insecure. So you have already fought insecurity. No one else will engage in such kind of things. For example, perhaps those terrorizing us in the bush might have not have space now, because most of them would have been enrolled in proper and yes.
Now, finally, what message do you have for Muslims?
My message is that, especially at this critical moment, as Muslims in this country, we need to be prayerful for our country. We need to be prayerful for the security of our country, more especially in this part of the country where we are experiencing a terrible situation of insecurity. So I will advise Muslims to take this opportunity that the Almighty Allah during these holidays is so charitable with us. He's always charitable, but his charitability is much more prominent in this month. So let's use that opportunity to be prayerful, to us to pray for security, prosperity of our country, and the stability of the country, and so on and so on.
Thank you so much, Dr. Bashir, for finding time to be with us.
It's my pleasure.
We hope when next week you come back in,
Inshallah.
and that has been Dr. Bashir Usman Boji, with whom we discussed on what is expected of Muslims during the first 10 days of the holy month of Ramadan. The program will be continuous after this experience.